Hey guys, thank you so much for clicking on this video. This is my first podcast of the Curious Experience, and I wanted to just hop on to just kind of explain what exactly I'm trying to do here, and tell you why I kind of created this podcast so it kind of makes sense all the following episodes. But yeah, so, coming out of college, I feel like for everyone, it kind of feels like a weird state where you don't know exactly what you want to do, but you know what you don't want to do, and you don't know what you need to figure out what you do want to do. And I was in the exact same position, and I was just kind of looking for things to, make my brain, continue to grow and be able to find who exactly I wanted to be. And I kind of realized that I was consuming a lot of content that wasn't contributing to my growth. And I needed to find content that was going to spark curiosity and make my brain, think a little bit more, and really help unfold who I wanted to be. So that's kind of the idea of this podcast. It's basically me just interviewing a bunch of interesting people, particularly in the tech world, picking their brains, more about their journey of kind of how they got to where they are, because, I think there's a lot that goes into being successful, and it starts right up here. There's a lot that you kind of have to battle within yourself. You have to battle around your surroundings, your immediate surroundings, and then really realizing what it takes for you to, be the most and the best version of yourself. So I kind of try to take that approach when I do these interviews. I try to really ask them questions about, their mindset, what changes they had to do, what struggles they had, because I feel like I kind of always see people after they're successful, but not necessarily when they're going through the thick of it. So, the range of people that I'll be interviewing are going to be from really early stage, startups to, maybe late stage, early startups. So we can really kind of see what exactly it takes to get to that position. So if that is something that you are interested in, please take a listen. And I think that you'll definitely leave the episode learning something new. So yeah, without further ado, this is the first episode of The Curious Experience with my guest, Asha Cooper. Right. Hi, everyone. This is the first episode of The Curious Experience. So today I have Asha Cooper, who is a model, creative, and founder of Your Flow, which quickly is a platform for content creators to simplify their creative processes with tools to manage collaborations and workflows. So thank you so much for joining us.
No, thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
Yeah, for everyone here, I actually found her TikTok online, and that's how I was able to find out about her company. And she was kind of talking about her experiences starting a startup, and kind of going into like about her, who she is, and kind of is centering the brand around herself, which I even have seen online about that being a really good strategy in terms of marketing a startup. So thank you so much again. So if you would want to get into, growing up and, how it kind of led you to where you are now.
So I guess growing up, I'm from Australia, first of all. So I grew up in a state called Queensland, and I grew up in like outback Queensland. So if you imagine the movies, how they really paint outback Queensland, I was living out there. So it was quite a different childhood growing up. It was a little bit lonely. I, was quite independent as well, very small town. But I always found that I was quite a creative person. So when I moved a little bit closer, towards the East Coast, which is kind of where everyone lives, the big cities, in Australia, during high school, I kind of struggled to find myself a little bit. I knew I was a creative person. I knew I was destined for more, and I felt so stuck in my hometown. So yeah, I really just knew I wanted to be a creative. I didn't know how it was going to work, but after I finished high school, I pretty much moved to the city and just decided I'm going to make it work. During high school, I was kind of, traveling, 4 hours to go to a photo shoot, like in my car. I was 17. So I was really determined to make it work, no matter, where I came from.
So like back then, your outlets for kind of getting out some of that creativity, so you were modeling in high school as well.
Yeah, so modeling, I started that towards like my later years of high school, but I had always been like, played multiple musical instruments, like I was really into piano, saxophone. I loved art and watercolor. I was kind of just the person to try everything and do everything.
Yeah. And what like particularly like inspired you at the point where you were like, I think that I want to do something more beyond even just modeling or even creatively in the more traditional sense?
Yeah, so I guess I knew that I'm the type of person that loves to help other people. I love seeing other people succeed. I study psychology as well, so really goes hand in hand. And I think for me, it's always been about doing something outside of myself. I just love others so much and I love to see others thrive, my friends, my family. So being able to build something to support others and not just myself has always been a goal of mine.
Yeah. So, I mean, what did that look like early on, before you were able to kind of pack it all together into the startup you have now? Was there something in the beginning you tried first with it?
There wasn't really anything I tried first, but honestly, like just answering people in my DMs, like even now get messages from people, how do I start, particularly from my hometown, where I guess, it's a small country town. Often it's either you're staying, you're living there, or you move away. And for a lot of people, it's hard to, they're not really modeled what it's like to pursue your passions and creativity. So for them to reach out to me and say, hey, how can I get started? I would jump on Zoom calls, I would jump on phone calls, I would send them long paragraphs on, you know, how to get started, the real insights into the industry. Just because, yeah, I just knew I wanted to help them as well because it's something that I wish I had when I was first starting.
Yeah, and that's when you moved to the city, and when you were
Hmm.
pursuing more of your passions, you were getting in contact by different people to kind of like learn about your journey.
Definitely. But even still in high school, I'd have friends kind of coming up to me or people I didn't really connect with, asking me how to get started, why have you decided to do this? Like really just curious and wanting to learn, but they didn't really feel like they had somebody to turn to get that
Yeah.
guidance.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, especially in the modeling industry, it can be a bit rough and people can feel a bit like gatekeepy in terms of like resources or even like figure sharing how they, got started. So even getting out in New York City, it can be a bit rough and social media definitely has helped to kind of like allow bridge
Mm.
that gap for people to, network and connect in that way.
Yeah, it's so exciting. And I think, like your point earlier about, sharing my journey with the startup, I know we're kind of jumping away, but I think that is so important because I've met so many other founders through sharing my story, like, and connecting with each other, jumping on Zoom calls and kind of like helping each other with where to get started, advice. Obviously, not everything is going to apply to you, but just even finding that support is so incredible. And like, that's the one positive I love about social media.
Yeah, yeah. When I was going through your TikToks, I saw how you were kind of explaining how you got to where you are now. And there was a point where, you had some burnout. And I think a lot of people can feel that way because it's a lot, there's so much you can do with it, but it also can feel very overwhelming. Were there any
Mhm.
points where you were in this journey? Was it before your startup that you kind of maybe felt overwhelmed?
Yeah, it was definitely before the startup idea even came to me. I guess that's like the light bulb moment for the startup idea. I had been doing content creation for a few years. It was going well, I was enjoying it, but it was just becoming, something that I once loved. Like I used to love setting up my phone and videoing, being that person in the friend group that always had the BTS, from the night out or something like that. I loved it. And I was like, okay, cool. I'm going to monetize this. I'm going to turn it into a job. But in doing that, I didn't realize how much effort and time goes into the business side of being a creative. And it really burnt me out having to, follow up on emails, do all of that sort of check-in. And it just took away my drive for it. And I was like severely burnt out. I had a bit of a hiatus from creating in the modeling world for about 3 to 6 months. Can't remember exactly because it kind of all mushes in together. But yeah, I really just took some time away because I was just done. I was like, this isn't sustainable. I do not know how, I was like in my early 20s, I was like, I do not know how I'm meant to keep doing this until I'm like 40, 50,
Yeah.
if I'm going at this rate.
Yeah, it's true. It's like it's literally everything inside of you that is what it takes to kind of like continue to like be creative, work on something and then actually put it out. Like all those three steps can, can definitely feel overwhelming.
Mm.
I was in high school, I had like a YouTube channel and I started to get some traction too, but there was a point where like, a lot of people would just come up to me and like call me by my YouTube username. And I don't know why I didn't like it. And just the idea of having to like produce content from then on kind of felt a bit overwhelming, especially just being in school and, like you, I was very like a shell of myself. So I was just not comfortable even being perceived. So I
Mm.
definitely understand just like not like knowing how to make the most of yourself or even be right in your mind to know how to best, get a workflow going. So did you kind of have to get to a point where you had to put things in your life to, that made you feel able to work productively?
Yeah, I definitely tried. And like, look, it's definitely something that I still struggle with now. Like, I'm definitely better, but there's always improvements to be made. I feel like I was so unorganized, really. Like, I used to call myself the president of the unorganized club because I was just everywhere. It was Google Sheets, it was trying Notion, it was, switching to ClickUp, trying all these different tools, a lot of them not built for content creators specifically. And it was just a lot because, they're big tools to use, like massive CRMs that, big companies use. And I'm like, this doesn't even work at what I'm trying to do, or my notes app, or my journal. It was just all over the shop. And I think I realized simplify, like that was the biggest thing that's helped me. Having a really clear roadmap of how working with me goes, like, from first email right to the end when I'm invoicing a client, you know, having a roadmap and just copying and pasting that every single time I work with the client, it just has helped my mind be more organized.
Yeah, I think for me, like I just kind of like have to know when to give myself time to like just do
Mm.
something else. And I think my mind can be also be a little bit sporadic in that sense where if I feel like I'm not kind of consistently working on something for like, the whole day, then I'll feel like I'm not really getting stuff done. But even just getting like a little bit done a day, like kind of finding satisfaction in that and knowing like I'm kind of moving it over. Cause if I just like, try to accomplish so much in a day and then I, feel bad about not doing, I'm not going to want to go back to it because I'm not kind of like treating
Mm.
myself, right to be able to, commend myself for what I have done and then continue on that progress instead of just being down on myself for not, doing a bunch.
Yeah, doing enough, doing the most, or yeah, I think I get in that mindset too. Like I almost get stuck at my computer, it feels like, and I'm just stuck there. Like I have to finish this task today. I can't do anything else. But also for me, another little tool that I've kind of implemented, towards the end of last year is like having specific days for things. Like I guess if you're someone that has multiple projects going on, or like for me, I'm doing my research in psych and I'm also doing the startup and I'm doing my modeling and creative. So there's a lot going on. So
Yeah.
having like specific days set out for each like aspect of myself has been so helpful in just, okay, today is a day when I'm focusing on my university studies. And then tomorrow is when I do all of my content or I do your flow work, or like even doing a half day. This helps so much.
Yeah. Yeah. So I didn't even realize. So you're in school right now too, studying psychology.
Yeah, so I have my bachelor, but I'm doing my honors year at the moment. Finishes in May, so I'm at like the pointy end. I'm so close. But yeah, it's a lot.
No, yeah. And like setting aside certain days for certain things, I'm sure kind of makes it a little bit more digestible. So it's not like
Mm.
all too much. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
your brain's not getting overwhelmed.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. I mean, are there any ways that you kind of decompress? Like, what do you like kind of do for fun when you're not kind of in work mode?
I live by the beach, so I'm on the beautiful sunny coast
So
in
jealous.
Queensland, Australia. It's gorgeous. I can see the ocean from like the balcony. It's beautiful. So going to the beach is definitely my decompressed time. I love just sitting there watching the waves, having a little swim, having a bit of mermaid time, I call it.
Yeah.
To just really switch off. If I could throw my phone off the cliff, I would. It's really hard when you work in social media or, you know, even as a founder, having to be present online all the time, it's quite hard. So I love to just switch off my phone for, a few hours at least and just no notifications. Or I've recently been doing this thing as well to decompress is that like when my phone dies, letting it die and not plugging it back in.
Yeah.
That's been another really cool thing I've been doing.
Yeah. Like let her rest.
Yes, let her rest too.
Okay, cool. Yeah. I mean, I'd love to know the day when you decided like, okay, I think I want to be a founder, number one, and two, I think I want to work on this specific idea.
Okay. Knowing that I wanted to be a founder and do my own thing, I feel like I almost can't say there's a day for that. It's almost been like innately in me that I felt like I'm meant for more and I want to do my own thing. I've never really liked working for other people, hence why I do freelance creative work. Like I like working for myself. So I guess I kind of knew that. And for starting Your Flow and the startup, it was kind of like a light bulb moment on the couch with my partner going through the burnout, really struggling with my content creation, not being able to organize things. And we kind of just said, let's just build a tool specifically for content creators. Um, that's kind of where the light bulb came from, my own struggles and my burnout and, my hiatus of just sitting around thinking, how can I make this easier for myself and for other people?
Yeah. I mean, how did you come up with the name?
It was something that kind of stuck with us. Naming something is really
Oh my
hard.
God.
I never imagined that. Like, honestly, probably the hardest part about starting up something. We had originally our like Miro board that we had where we were putting lots of ideas. This is like probably the first week stuff. We originally called our project Matt Damon. Don't know why. He was on like in a movie that we watched like the night before. So we're like, okay, Project Matt Damon. And then Your Flow, it kind of just worked because like I wanted to feel in flow. I love that from like the positive psychology, feeling in flow when you're doing something you love. And that's the feeling that I want other creatives to have when they get to use our tech and when they're creating, not feeling that resistance and the struggle and the yuckiness. Yeah, just being in your own flow too, because a lot of other platforms as well, not flexible to how you work. So it's your own thing. So yeah, that's where the name came from.
You kind of explained a psychological, is it a term inflow or I've never heard of that. What is that kind of?
So like, getting in like the flow state almost. So when maybe you're doing a puzzle or you're painting and you just become so engrossed in the task, you kind of lose track of time, that sort of feeling. You
Beautiful.
may have had it, I don't know.
The beautiful feeling. No, that's awesome.
Yeah.
You can even like be able to harness it, and try to like make the most of it.
Mm.
And then, from there, did you kind of start like drawing up logos or was it more of just a bunch of brainstorming sessions like that next week?
Yeah, so I guess the first week, probably the first month or so was a lot of whiteboarding. So we use this tool called Miro. I can recommend that to anyone who wants to start their own thing. It's a great place to have virtual sticky notes almost and just map your ideas. So it was a lot of that, looking at, doing a lot of research, R&D, looking at other platforms, what are they doing, what are they missing? What's that 10% that we can bring to the table? That's where we spent a lot of time. Also talking to a lot of my friends in the creative industry and reaching out to so many other people that I didn't even know, just saying, hey, do you have 10 minutes of your time to chat with me about your experience creating content? So really just figuring out the pain points that people were experiencing and then building the product from there.
Yeah. And, I'm sure when those early days are happening, did you kind of feel like any moments of self-doubt about the idea when it's like so fragile and it's like kind of in the air?
I mean, I still feel it now sometimes. It's nerve-wracking, putting so much time and effort into something. And, that's always in the back of my mind, is this for nothing? Have I just wasted X amount of months, X amount of hours, especially in the first week, we were really going in. Both of us were kind of on holidays, not working. So it was like days of workshopping. Um, I really just thought, am I going all in on something that's really stupid? But it was really validated by the experiences and talking to people, and knowing that it would support someone.
Yeah, and what was the journey kind of to create, a MVP, as they say, or anything that
Mhm.
kind of like, gives it more of an image to your ideas?
Yeah, so it was really just a lot of fleshing out. Like, I think, getting that idea for the MVP took a lot more time than we thought, just because, you know, we wanted it to be right. We wanted it to be helpful. So yeah, it was kind of going from that ideas stage, talking about pain points, and then thinking, okay, how could we turn these pain points into a feature? Looking at what already exists, how can we make this a more collaborative process, flexible for more people, kind of thinking in that point. And then really, I guess for like, because we're building the app, mapping out like user flows, what sort of way do we want people to move through the tech and the app? So yeah, that's kind of how we've gotten to the MVP. And then currently like building a demo, like doing all the UX design, that was a big part of it as well.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'd love to hear more about the features that you brought to your flow and what users can look forward to.
Yeah, so I guess right now we're launching our beta MVP with just one feature. So we're looking at building just like an onboarding questionnaire because that is a big pain point for a lot of people. Email suck, the back and forward email dance that you often have trying to get all the right information, or sometimes when you're creating content, you send it off and then you get asked for a revision because there was a miscommunication. So it's a feature to essentially gather all of the information at once from a brand or from a creator. If you're a brand, it works both ways. It's a hybrid sort of model. And then, yeah, turning that into, something that you can succinctly build a script from, build a brief from, or we're looking at adding in some AI features as well to have an AI generate a script for the concept based on the feedback from the brand or the creator.
So it's kind of working to connect the brand with the creator and kind of get them past the point where they know what they're going to do. So by giving the
Yes.
questionnaire, the creator would then fill that out and the business would then receive it. Or I'm sure are there two questionnaires for both?
Yeah, that's kind of the way it would work. So it's kind of just avoiding the back and forward email thing that kind of goes on with gathering information, ideas about what the brand wants. So you can have a really clear vision and just move through the content creation process a lot quicker. Obviously, I think at the beginning when we we're kind of fleshing out ideas, there are so many different features that I would love to build. Like end goal for your flow is to be an end-to-end sort of collaboration management platform, but it's really hard to build something end to end with so many features off the bat. And that's something that, I've struggled to let go of that, vision and feature for it to be perfect, but to just have one feature out and helpful for people is kind of the goal right now.
Yeah, I mean, even when I was doing, research and to my startup idea that I was working on, a lot of some podcasts that I would see or things online, they would say like it doesn't have to be perfect. Like the first thing you put out doesn't have to be everything, it doesn't have to be perfect, it just has to be something. Because again, like it kind of goes into, the workflow and kind of like commending yourself for just the little things and then building on that. So it's easier to kind of tackle it, as days go along.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the thing. I'm like, I can't, you know, boil the ocean and solve all the problems
Yeah.
at once. I just got to attack it, little by little, chip away at it. But yeah, the feature will really, the MVP will definitely help people with to have a bit more ease and flow throughout their workflow of collaborating with a brand.
Yeah. And you said it's you and your partner working on the app together. How's that been?
Yes. Good, really good. I think it works well. Often I think having a co-founder can, maybe some people might find it difficult or, a struggle because, it's two different minds coming together to work on sort of one vision. But yeah, it's been really great. He's an extremely talented software engineer. So that's been really helpful for me. To kind of have more of that logical, strategical side, as I am definitely more of a creative, visionary type of person. So we really complement each other and it's made the whole process really easy.
Yeah. How does that workflow kind of look? Like, are you kind of coming up with, the ideas and then are you guys kind of coming together to kind of like see what's more logistical on the software engineering side?
Yeah, so I guess we come together a lot. Like at the beginning, it was a lot of us working together, ideating. I was doing a lot of the user interviews, that sort of thing. But then I guess more of the technical side. So, the UX design, UI, and obviously the code base and how all of that connects in the back end. It's up to him. So we kind of both have our own wheelhouses, but then come together. Like he is definitely more of the technical founder and then I'm kind of working in more the marketing, that sort of that side of things.
Yeah. I mean, from what I've heard, in the research I've done, that's like the perfect match, because you need one person to be a lot more technical and you need someone to kind of like come up with like all the
Yes.
ideas, the crazy ideas, and then kind of like, like shift it down to kind of see like what is more possible.
Mm.
Um, but that is awesome. And I know
Yeah.
that what you have right now on the website, it's more of kind of trying to create that community. So could you kind of speak to, having the design process be maybe being community forward first?
hmm Yeah, so we kind of realized, as we're building this MVP out, we're building this tech, we didn't just want to be another app sort of thing, and that was never what we went into it like thinking it was going to be, just a piece of technology to throw at people and say, go use it. We really wanted to build a whole movement behind what we're doing to really change the way that creators collaborate and brands collaborate with each other as well. So by doing that, building out our community, that support, like I said, I had people messaging me. So I'm like, okay, cool. What if we had a space for people, to gain access to other creators, pick their minds, stay aligned with their goals, and really make sure they're progressing to success? Because I guess a lot of people don't have, a creative friend on speed dial essentially to go, hey, is this okay what this brand's saying? Or has anyone come across the same issue? And it's challenging for people to have like that sort of connection with others. So building that out for me through our community has been really, really important.
Yeah, definitely in the creator space too. I mean, I think there is obviously, I don't know if you've been on the internet for a while, but, as the internet's progressed, there's just so many more influencers out there now. And I remember when I first downloaded TikTok, a huge part of my algorithm was like, okay, start today, like, become an influencer, like you can do this is how much money I make. And it all sounds great, but for a lot of people, some people just need to talk to somebody like on the phone, one on one, and really hear those experiences and not like just on a screen.
Well, that's the thing. Like, I guess you could say we're so connected. I follow this person on TikTok, whatever. The advice is so generic often. And it's really sometimes you just need to hear someone who's been through the thick of it, has actually had experiences, and hear like specific examples of what to do, or situations they've been in, to learn from them. So yeah, it's kind of like moving it just from being internet friends into a real like connected community.
Yeah, and the vision for the app is that, people who are just on that are just getting into the creator space, they would be able to connect with other influencers too that want to give some guidance on that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's kind of, yeah, the whole vision is, get guidance from each other, because it's one big community. And I think that's what I love about being a creative, is that everybody is so supportive, but we can learn so much from each other as well, I think.
Yeah. So I'd love to know your experience kind of navigating, the startup world, like even in terms of like investments, like, there's stuff that you kind of have to pay for. Did you have to put any money up front towards the idea?
Yeah, definitely did have to put some money in up front. I guess we're trying to keep it very lean, very scrappy. We are bootstrapping, so we
Yeah.
don't have any investment currently. We'll be looking down the track, but that's not where the focus has been right now for us. So it's more my own personal money that I've put into it, and my partner's also his own personal money that we kind of had both in savings, I guess.
Yeah.
I kind of like I was going to meant to be going to Europe and like having a Euro summer last year. I had booked in to go to Croatia and Italy. I cancelled that and put all the money that I had put into that trip into our like branding and like brand identity, I guess. So that's kind of where the investment came from. A little bit of a sacrifice to make, but for me, having a really strong brand identity was so important.
Yeah, and where is that kind of allocated? Is it towards the softwares that you're using? Is it towards advertisements?
hmm so that was more towards building, I guess like the logo, the branding, that sort of thing. We really wanted it to be cohesive, and we got a professional, branding studio to do that for us. But then, yeah, a lot of the other, money that we're investing into it is going into like, cloud hosting, that sort of thing, with the tech side of things. But still, yeah, trying to keep it as lean as we can, looking for free tools is really important.
Absolutely. Yeah. There's definitely a lot of free tools out there that, I've tried to leverage in terms of branding. It probably like looks so ugly, but I'm like, listen, I'll worry about it later. So I mean, I definitely
hmm
understand just kind of like, making the most of the resources that you have.
definitely. And I guess the other like big chunk of money that kind of we invested right away would be like setting up the company and, making it official. That was kind of where a lot of money went to, and getting, shareholder agreements, all of those sort of legal documents written up as well. Just because, yeah, having a solid base and a, agreement in writing between, co-founders, and, if you're going to eventually have investors, having something like that, written down by lawyers, approved, is really important too.
Yeah. Yeah. And through the process, did you have any, business consultants or mentors that were kind of helping you?
Yeah, so we have I have like, I guess, a business consultant mentor now. I'm within like one of her community groups. It has been amazing for keeping me accountable, giving me new ideas and thinking, and I've just learnt so much about, the business space. And it's like, again, access to, that knowledge that you just don't get unless you're speaking to someone who has been where you are.
Yeah, absolutely. And, there's definitely so much good that comes from, being on the startup journey in terms of self-growth and your network.
Mm.
Have there been any, particularly harsh experience being in it as well?
I think for me, the hardest thing would be like the self sort of comparison, putting myself in more networking events and, building my network. I now have, amazing groups of women that, are also in business. It has been great to be surrounded by them, and it really lifts you up. And I am a strong believer in that, like, who's in proximity to you is like who you'll become. So when I started the startup, I made it my mission to put myself in rooms with people who, I wanted to be surrounded with, and that, were where I wanted to be. But again, that brings in a bit of comparison and self-doubt, I guess, that, maybe I won't make it, those sorts of thoughts.
Yeah, I completely agree. Even just going to like conferences, I find myself like the huge thing they talk about is like imposter syndrome. Feeling like
Mm.
you're not, meant to be in those spaces. How did you find those spaces that were local to you?
Really amazing. Like, honestly, some of the most welcoming communities that I've ever tried to enter. It was just like they just took me in, and like I had been a part of the group for, forever. It was just great to have that sort of feeling, especially as someone who growing up, I didn't really have, I guess, a close group of friends. I always felt like a little bit of an outcast. And I struggled with having friendships, apart from like, a few really close friends. So to be able to have like a strong group of friends has just been next level amazing. And I can just go to them anytime we meet up for coffee or go for a walk and just be honest about my journey in business. And everybody is always willing to put a hand up to recommend something or give tips. And it's just, yeah, really incredible.
Yeah, and I'm sure it's even better because they're kind of in the same, line of work, and be able to
Mm.
share those experiences and, kind of get feedback on it.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's so much value as well in getting, tips and advice from people who aren't also in your industry. I think, it's such a different perspective, and, sometimes can be the advice or the tip and the different perspective on the situation that you need.
Yeah, and did you find those communities online?
Yeah, I did. So I just, went online through a friend of a friend, someone saying, come along down to this event. And it was daunting to go to my first ever one. Like, I remember
Yeah.
walking into the networking event, getting my little lanyard, and I was like, oh gee, everybody else is got their groups. But as soon as you just spark that first conversation, it just, yeah, all that fear goes away.
Yeah, I would think I was telling you too about, my experience kind of putting myself in those spaces. And, I always try to tell myself it's kind of a new realization, but I think I maybe have taken the advice subconsciously. But you don't really have to be courageous all the time, just when it's time. Like like, life is gonna show you a moment. Like you can be courageous right now. You don't have to be courageous
Mm,
all the time. But if there's a person that you want to be, or if there's a place you want to be, there's certain things you have to do to get yourself there, and there's going to require moments of courage, even when you want to kind of cower. But you can cower after
mm.
in your room and be like, oh my gosh, but in the moment you know what you need to do.
Exactly. And you can feel that. You just have to trust
Feel it.
it and
Yeah,
just go for it.
you definitely feel it. You're like, this is the moment. So have you gone to
Mhm.
conferences too, for startups?
Yeah, I've been to a few, I guess, more like networking events, less conferences. Would love to go to some. I think this year that's definitely on my little list of goals of things to do. But yeah, it's been really great. And I think the connections I've made there have been so helpful down the track, like looking for someone to, help with branding or to help with, social media advice. They just, who really does help you down the track. And like those relationships are, invaluable.
Yeah. Yeah. So would you recommend someone who's kind of in the entrepreneurial space, like to have a community of people?
Absolutely. And like even if you want to be a entrepreneur but you just don't have the idea yet, just take yourself to those events because you will be inspired by others and their journey and where they found their sort of light bulb moment or their why. And it will really help you to, figure out what sort of path you want to take.
Yeah. I mean, it makes so much sense now that I'm thinking about it. When you're going down a path where you don't really have a lot of people around you, of course it's going to be daunting.
Mm,
I always say like it takes a village just to kind of like maintain like your mental space. Like you need to have people, that bring out different parts of you. You need to have some relationship with people that, are from your past, just so you can kind of like, it's like a garden. Like you need to have a bunch of fruit
mm,
and vegetables in your diet. You need to have a variety of different people around you to kind of like make you feel yourself in different ways. And the same thing goes for business. As I'm going through my own journey, like talking to more people and, seeing more people that are in my space, it definitely puts things in perspective for what I'm doing. And definitely makes me feel more supported and not so much of an imposter, within the space.
absolutely. I so agree. The garden metaphor, that's amazing. It's
No,
exactly how I think about it,
yeah.
You wouldn't want to just eat, a zucchini every single day. You need to have a variety of things going on.
Yeah, it's true because they have different tastes, they make you feel different things, and then they all work in tandem and then, create the beautiful ecosystem.
Definitely.
Yeah. So I'm curious, what made you decide to document your journey on TikTok?
I guess I knew it was a good idea. Like you said, I've been seeing everyone, they're like personal branding, all the founders that are succeeding right now, they're all posting their own journeys on TikTok and doing this, I guess, build in public sort of approach to building a business in tech. And you know what? It makes so much sense. And I think I booked in this random like 1 hour strategy call with a lovely social media marketer. And she kind of just told me straight up, she's like, what are you doing? Not, posting your journey and posting your side of the story. She said, people connect to people. And that is something that has always stuck to me. Um, because, I like to buy from brands, even like makeup, skincare, and I feel like they've got a story behind it. And I love the founder of the brand or the girl that's always in the social media and the TikTok. She's really funny. That's kind of what makes me want to buy. So I'm like, why would I not be taking that approach with my startup to, get people interested in my journey and, what I'm trying to build?
Yeah, and I told you this, when we were talking before, but when I saw your TikToks and I saw how you were really documenting everything, because the reality of having a startup or being in that on that journey is that there are really good days and there's really bad days and there's really okay days, and you're going to have to go through all of it. And you were just so raw in the moments when they were bad and so raw in the moments when they were good, literally in the car after a call, you're like, oh, it was such a good call, I feel so confident right now. So I definitely appreciated kind of seeing that perspective, because it's not something that you see a lot on these journeys. You kind of just see people sharing more of the happy moments.
Definitely. And I think that's one thing why I like to just like pull my phone out in the moment when things are going on. Because, yeah, a lot of people, they go home after they've had this big epiphany or a bad day and then they set up their camera. But when it's really in the moment, it's so raw and it's so real. And, people can actually experience what it is like to live my life and, go through building a startup, and it'll give them some insight into what it's actually like.
Yeah. I mean, would you say it's kind of an essential tool, for modern startups to kind of utilize social media?
I definitely think social media is essential tool. Like, I think it would be really dumb if you didn't have like a social media at this day and age, especially just because it's becoming a tool to be like, your unique value, like sort of way you stand out. People are on TikTok so much, they're online so much. It's almost become like social proof that, what you're building is going to be useful and that, you are, a genuine person wanting to help them.
Yeah. That's so true. And now I'm seeing that TikTok's gonna be banned and like
I
next
know.
I'm like, what? I just started really like utilizing it as a tool and not like using it personally, and now I'm like, wait, no.
I'm really interested to see what happens. Obviously, I'm not in the US, so it doesn't affect me directly, but I feel like indirectly it will affect me. Maybe it'll make my videos blow up a bit more because, there's less people from the US posting their founder stories. But I don't wish that upon anyone. Like I do. I
Yeah.
do.
I agree. People are saying like, oh, we should, maybe they'll make a new app and like it gives everyone a chance to like blow up on that app.
To restart. Yeah, yeah.
Right. But I mean, TikTok is just so special in that way. I don't know if it's because they just have so much information and data where everyone's been kind of been able to find their own little pocket of the internet. But it's just not the same on different apps
Mm.
like YouTube Shorts or Instagram Reels.
No, I don't know what it is about TikTok. Like maybe it's because I had such an attachment to TikTok. Like I used to love Musically. I don't know if you
Oh my
remember
God.
that. Yeah.
I remember
I just,
you gotta move the
yeah. So I'm like, maybe it's that little, I'm attached to that, age of TikTok. But yeah, I'm keen for TikTok to continue to blow up and hopefully it stays in the US because like you said, it's such a cool way to find people. And I literally use it as a search engine now. Like I don't even think about Google, I think about TikTok. So that's another reason why I think anybody with a startup needs to have a TikTok account or an Instagram.
Yeah, and that search feature I feel like is exactly it, because if you look up a certain topic on Instagram, like it's just Instagram profiles, like you're not going to really
Mm,
see like information. Like you kind of have to dig a little bit more, but Instagram kind of has a really good way of or TikTok has a really good way of categorizing videos and then being able to like present that to you in a very digestible form just by a quick
mm.
search.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I mean, to kind of conclude, I mean, do you have any advice that you would give to, creators or entrepreneurs who are currently going through some, self-doubt setbacks right now?
I I think it sounds very cliche, but just, commit to the vision and just commit to what you're doing. And that, you can have the doubt after you put something out into the world and people don't like it. Like get that validation first before you even start having any sort of self-doubt because you never know who it might, support or, impact. Even if it's not the target audience, like somebody else might pick it up and go, this is such a useful tool. Very broad statement, obviously.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's my biggest advice. And I think, embracing the journey and appreciating that is so important. And embracing that good things do take time. I think shifting my mindset to that, especially when it comes to posting on TikTok or posting online, has been really important because I guess people can start to think that, having a viral video or, something blowing up is, what the key to success is, but it's really just about enjoying the progress and that knowing that your win is inevitable. You just have to keep chipping away at it.
Yeah, I love that you said it's, commit to the journey because that is
Mm,
really what it is. And any journey isn't all good. And that's honestly kind of the beauty in it is you kind of get to experience the good with the bad to be able to appreciate the really good. Um,
mm,
and you always are going to learn something, even if it's not what I did. I think that's what I try to tell myself, because I've had many ideas, some that I'm sitting on, some that I've scrapped, but every time I've, pursued it, I've learned something that I was able to bring to the next. So, that's the beautiful part that I guess I'm speaking to,
mm.
that it's never necessarily a failure. It's something to be able to embrace, be able to bring to something else.
Definitely. I was listening the other day to a podcast speaking about the founder of this company, this tech startup called Time Left. I don't know if you've heard of them.
No.
It's very simple. You just go for dinner with strangers, and pretty much like this founder had like three other ideas, and then it's only, last year and in 2023 that their, final form idea of Time Left really started to take off. So again, it's like, from the journey, from what he learnt, like with all the failed ideas and failed apps that he had built, like he built a bucket list app or something, from all of that, he took this learning into, the MVP that people actually wanted, and has built it out into an amazing company. So I think for me, that's always been an inspiring story. to know that the journey is just as important as the end destination.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you have any upcoming milestones with your flow that, people can definitely look forward to at some point?
Yeah, so MVP launch, we're aiming for end of Feb. So that is really exciting to have that coming. And this year I'm looking to do more in-person activations. I feel like connecting in person is something that I love to do. So probably looking at hosting some events to, do some content creation together in a studio, really fun vibes. That's all in the works, churning away in my mind and on my Google Sheets, planning that out. So hopefully hosting a few of those in-person events this year too.
Yeah, that's so awesome. I didn't even think about that, like, because it's so social media centric, like having a space for people to kind of be able to like do social media and like
Yeah.
the app, get the hype going. That's definitely awesome.
Yeah. Well, I just think like, I hate having to ask my partner to come, film videos for me. And like,
Yeah.
it's been a lot to, get him to get the angles right. But, being with a big group of content creators, like imagine the content you're going to get from that.
Yeah. And again, like the brand awareness,
Mm,
that's so good to be able to have that, in the space in person. That's awesome.
mm. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Asha, for joining us. I really appreciate you taking out the time. I've talked to you about what the purpose of this podcast is, but it's really just to kind of like, get a better microscopic look into what it takes to, do a startup journey, and kind of shed some light on it so people who are going through it don't necessarily have to only see the end result of it. They can kind of see, what it looks like, even mentally, to kind of be in a space to, do this every single day. So I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me on. I think this is everything I wish I could have listened to way back when, like this time last year, essentially, when I was starting. So I'm so grateful. And I really do hope that, one person listening to this maybe got a little insight out of my journey.
Yeah, and your flow's links and everything will be in the description below. Asha's Instagram and everything will also be down below if you want to connect with her. She's told me that she's always willing to talk to anybody if they have any questions, so I'm sure that's the case for everyone else.
Yeah, please DM me. Please, say, can we get on a Zoom? I am more than happy to help anyone. If you're looking at starting content creation, building an app, whatever, like I am here for you to pick my brain because I just truly love supporting other people.
Yeah, and she has is it a mailing list that it's called? On
Yeah, yeah. So we've got a wait list for the app, and we also have our little online community, which is essentially like a group chat on Slack. So you can sign up to either of those. Both are free to join. The Slack community is totally free. We do a lot of goal setting, a lot of vision and mindset work as well, and just sharing collective wins. So yeah, really cool. If you want to join, you can.